order the regular June meeting of the Davison Board of Education. The first item on the agenda tonight is the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We will move on to the roll call. Robin Rissica.
Thank you. Karen Conover.
Here.
John Hare.
Here.
Mark Glassman. Diane Rhines.
Here.
Matthew Smith.
Present.
Granger Stefanko.
Here.
Kathleen Sudia.
Here.
Thank you.
The next item is the approval of the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda as printed.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the agenda as printed. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The next item is the approval of the consent agenda.
Move we approve the consent agenda as printed.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Mr. Brown?
Thank you, President Sudia. I'd just like to point out that as part of tonight's consent agenda, the board has approved the personnel report. And in that personnel report, we have promoted Angela Hards, who is a curriculum coordinator in the district and handles 31A Title I services and school improvement, to a curriculum director's position. And while Angela could not be here tonight, she did provide Mr. Loban with some comments, and so I'm going to ask him to read those now. Mr. Loban?
Yeah, Angie would like to thank Mr. Brown for the recommendation and the Board of Education for approving her new appointment. She says, I am honored and humbled to continue to service the students, families, and staff of Davison in this new position.
Very nice, thank you. We'll move on to communications. And from the public, we would like to welcome everyone who is joining us online tonight. And at this time, Mr. Logan, do we have any comments or questions?
We do not have any comments or questions in the chat room.
Very good. Then we'll move on to correspondence.
No correspondence this evening, Mrs. Sudi.
We'll move to the action items, and the first item is the approval of the revised shared business services contract between Davison Community Schools and the Atherton Community School District. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, President Sudia. As you all know, for a number of years now, the district has provided financial services for a neighboring school district, Atherton Community Schools. Atherton, in turn, pays the district for those services. The Davison Community Schools will continue to oversee the business services and custodial maintenance and transportation services for Atherton Community Schools for the 2020-2021 school year. A revised copy of the agreement between the two school districts is attached, and we recommend your approval of this shared services contract between the Davison Community Schools and the Atherton Community Schools this evening.
So moved.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the shared services contract between Davison Community Schools and the Atherton Community School District. Is there any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried. The next item is the approval of policies for the first reading. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, President Sudia. The policy committee met a while back and reviewed 12 policies that were either updates or new policies from Neola. Neola is our policy company, and they provide policy updates in both the spring and the fall. So we recently met to review the spring policy update, and we have 9 policies that we are bringing forward tonight for a first reading. I'm just going to go through each of those 9 policies and kind of touch on the highlights and summarize them for you. I know that you've been provided this information previously, but I want to make sure that everybody understands the crux of the policies. So the first policy that we're asking you to approve this evening for the first reading is policy 2412, and it deals with homebound instruction programs. Homebound instruction is for students that are temporarily unable to attend school. It may be a broken bone, they may be out sick, and when a student is eligible for homebound services, the district provides all of their work and a teacher that checks in with them on a regular basis to assist them while they are on homebound. The only change to the policy is that in the past, the policy has required a doctor's note excusing the student from school to be able to not only obtain homebound services, but for the district to continue to be able to count that student for a full FTE. Now, the note excusing the student can also come from a physician's assistant. So basically, the addition of a physician's assistant is the only real change to the policy itself. The second policy is policy 2414, which deals with reproductive health and family planning. This is a relatively new policy. We adopted it about a year ago, maybe a little bit more than that, after some legislation was passed that prohibits school employees from assisting a student in obtaining an abortion. There was a bit of a technical error in the policy as it was written, and so there's been some additional language added to the policy that basically further clarifies that staff cannot assist in any way, shape, or form a student with regards to obtaining an abortion. Okay, so that's the change there. The next policy is on threatening behavior towards staff members. This is also a revision. This is policy 3362.01. In the former policy, basically the wording said that, it used the term that any words or deeds that intimidate or cause anxiety could be deemed as threatening behavior from one staff member directed towards another staff member. The problem was it really didn't define what that threatening behavior or that intimidation or whatever could cause anxiety was. So the policy was revised and to provide specific examples, things like threats, stalking, bullying, things that a reasonable person, and that's new language in the policy as well, would deem as threatening, intimidating, or something that would cause anxiety to a reasonable person. So it just kind of made it less vague, if you will, more specific. Policy 4162 is a policy that we've had for a long time, but there are some significant changes to the policy based on two things. Number one was audits that were done over the past year or year and a half by the Michigan Department of Transportation and by the Federal Department of Transportation. And there's also been the formation of a new organization, the FMCSA, which stands for Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration. And so as a result of the formation of this new organization and these audits that were taking place, there are some changes that have been made in the policy. The first significant change is that random drug testing, the rate at which we do random drug testing now increases. All employees that are in safety-sensitive positions, such as bus drivers, must have and pass a drug screen and an alcohol test before they can begin employment. Periodically, usually once or twice a year, the district would randomly select individuals that would then undergo a drug screen and alcohol testing as a kind of a way to check and monitor to make sure that nobody was inappropriately using substances that they shouldn't be. Now, we are actually required to do annual checks on all employees. So it's increased the rate of those random samplings. The other thing that happened is the new Federal Motor Carrier Safety and Administration organization is now created a clearinghouse. And the purpose of the clearinghouse is to give more real-time, up-to-date results from drug screens. So anytime a bus driver in Davison, for example, is involved in a serious accident, we automatically send them for a drug and alcohol screen. Now, in what we used to have to do was usually have to keep that person off work until we got the results back. Now, this clearinghouse gives us real-time results that we can check online in order to get people back to work sooner who are cleared, or move forward with a disciplinary process if there were ever a problem. So those are the significant changes in that policy. We also have policy 5200, which deals with attendance. The only change to this policy was that the pupil accounting, the Michigan Department of Pupil Accounting now requires schools to identify and define a full-time student. So in our district, whether it's an alternative ed or in the high school, students have 6 periods. They have a 6-period day. So a full-time student is defined as a student with 6 class periods on their schedule. So that's the only real change in that particular policy. We also have policy 8210 on the school calendar. This policy revision was based on additional requirements put forth in MDE's pupil accounting manual. Policy 8400, which is school safety information, which is also basically in the past, any student that was consequenced for inappropriate behavior that was also criminal in nature. So if a student were caught in possession of a controlled substance, or they vandalized something and it was reported to the police and there was a charge, a legal charge against the student, then we had to keep track of that and we had to report it to the Michigan State Police annually. We had to actually submit a report. Now we simply have to post it on our website. We do that every year in July. And that's a relatively new law that went into effect just this past year as part of the large number of bills that were passed on school safety. And then last but not least, policy 8462 on student abuse and neglect. The board has approved this policy for the edits, which were to change the name of the Michigan to, the old policy identified Health and Human Services, but it didn't identify the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. So that policy change is really just a clarification of a name. There really wasn't anything in substance there, just an edit. So those are the policies and a summary of what each of them does to change our existing policy. And we recommend that you approve the first reading of these policies this evening.
I'll make a motion that we approve the following policies, 2412 through 8600 for the first reading.
It's been moved and supported that we approve the first reading of policies that were listed in the agenda. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We move on to the approval of the Davison High School asbestos abatement project. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, President Sudia. This one's a little bit exciting. We're finally going to get to the point where we're going to be able to start doing some work that was approved as part of our 2020 bond. All of you know that part of that is going to be to build a new auditorium and a lot of other really cool stuff and take care of a lot of critical needs. So the first project that we're doing is actually an abatement project here at Davison High School. The bids have been received for the asbestos abatement project at Davison High School, and attached is a recommendation memo from Executive Director Operations Phil Tome, which includes a bid, tabulation, and recommendation letter from Arch Environmental Group. Based on the bids received, we recommend approval of the low bid from Certified Abatement Services, Incorporated, in the amount of $154,000.
So move.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the low bid from Certified Abatement Services Incorporated in the amount of $154,000. Any discussion?
I'm very happy to see this happening, but I do have to ask, does this include the alternative or just the high school?
This is just the high school.
Just the high school?
Yeah, the
Okay.
alternative does not have.
Right.
In fact, the high school, I believe, and I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure the high school is the only building in our district that has any remaining asbestos.
Perfect. Thank you.
It might be good to point out, since we have an audience too, a TV audience, that all of the, for instance, the policies that we just approved the first reading of went through the policy committee of the board and was thoroughly looked at by the whole policy committee. And in this case, the Building and Grounds Committee also went through this and the upcoming project approval that we're going to do.
Great point.
All those in favor?
Yes.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried. The next item is the approval of the Davison High School Restoration Project. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, President Sudia. Well, the asbestos abatement tears things up, moves out the asbestos, we get rid of it, then we have to put things back together. So this is the second half of that project. So this is the approval to actually restore the building in the areas where the abatement has taken place. Put-back bids have been received from the for the restoration of all areas at the high school that are being abated for asbestos. Attached is a recommendation memorandum from Executive Director of Operations Phil Tome, which includes a bid tabulation and the recommendation letter from DCS Construction, which is our construction management firm for our bond projects. And we recommend approval of the bid from Metcalf Electric in the amount of $56,500 and the bid from Acoustic Ceilings and Partitions in the amount of $79,500 in accordance with their low combined base bid.
I'll move it.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to approve the bid from Metcalf Electric in the amount of $56,500 and the bid from Acoustic Ceilings and Partitions in the amount of $79,500 in accordance with their low combined base bid. Any discussion?
I think this is a great start to finally getting our high school repaired and putting that money to use. And I think this will benefit the students, the faculty, and I'm happy to approve of this tonight.
All those in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We'll move on to the adoption of the resolution to preserve educational services. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, President Sudia. As all of you know, the district, like all school districts in Michigan, is facing the possibility of some rather severe budget cuts. In my last blog, I talked a little bit to our community about the budget cuts and the severity at which we could see reduction in state aid funding. The COVID-19 pandemic has taken a toll on our public health, but it's also taken quite a toll on our economy. And it's basically left about a $1.2 billion hole in the state aid fund. That could translate into serious financial cuts to the district. And cuts of that size and that magnitude could really hinder our ability to deliver educational services to children. So I know that a week or two, maybe 3 ago, the State Board of Education passed a resolution. They adopted a resolution to retain or maintain educational services for children, and we're asking our board to do the same thing this evening. I guess I'll just leave it at that.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to adopt the resolution urging the state to preserve educational services. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Next is the acceptance of contributions. Mr. Brown.
Thank you, President Sudia. We have one contribution this evening. Former teachers Dan and Darlene Tomzak. Ms. Tomzak, you'll remember, was also a curriculum and personnel director here in the district years ago. Donated $200 to our Cardinal Care Fund to help families in need during the pandemic. And we recommend that you accept the contribution and direct me to thank the Tomzaks in writing.
So move. Support.
It's been moved and supported to accept the contributions that are listed. Any discussion? Very nice of them. All those in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We move on to the information items from the superintendent. Mr. Brown.
Well, there's a lot going on. in addition to the pandemic, we have some of the different things going on throughout the state and across the country. But I'm going to choose not to comment too much on that and rather stick to the positive and just say it's exciting to see some of the bond work starting to get done. In addition to the asbestos abatement and putback projects that you approved today, we have 3 other projects that are out to bid. Those are roofing projects. We are going to focus on some of those areas of critical need first. Abatement of asbestos at the high school is a project of critical need. It's something we've needed to do for a long time, but they're very expensive projects. We just haven't had the money to do it. And doing the abatement in the southeast corner of the building, which is where this project is scheduled, also will open the door to allow us to begin construction on the new auditorium, which is something a lot of people are very excited about next spring. So we're currently out to bid our 3 roofing projects. We have a roofing project at Seipel, a roofing project at the Alternative Education Building, and we're going to redo the roof of the gymnasium here in this building, which is a standalone separate roof. In addition to that, we have some mechanical work going out. We have a mechanical project at Hahn. We have a mechanical project here at the high school. Those will be going out to bid shortly. And we also plan on doing the restroom building. We plan on installing new restrooms at the stadium this summer. And that hasn't gone out to bid yet, but it will be. And then, of course, we're going to be moving that bus lot as well, and getting it off of the high school campus and moving it to the property over on Lapeer Road. So a lot of things going on. Mr. Tome is a very busy boy, overseeing a lot of these projects for the district. So that is kind of a glimmer of sunshine in a big cloud of gray. So we're happy about that. And the other thing I guess I'll just mention is we've been working with our parents and trying to come up with a solution for graduation. We're looking at what next year may look like in the fall, hoping to return, with face-to-face instruction. So we'll have more on that as we gather more information, but we're in the process of surveying our families right now to find out where they're at and what they would like to see happen. So I guess that's it.
Okay, thank you. Any other matters which may need to come before the board at this time?
Yes, I'd just like to say, Madam President, the last 3 months have been defined by the coronavirus. But I just want to send a message to our seniors, whether they're watching the live stream, that don't let the future be defined by the coronavirus. So stay strong, stay healthy, and happy graduation.
Quick question. I know the governor just released a state of order today. But one thing she did talk about was team sports and prerequisites being able to resume. I'm wondering what your thoughts were on starting to use the athletic field and sports track.
Well, I think we've got a lot of people that are ready to see those things open back up. I think we have a lot of people that are excited about the thought of returning to some normal activities. Outdoor activities are huge, especially this time of year. So that executive order just came out this afternoon. I think the governor made that announcement at about 3 o'clock this afternoon. So I have not yet had an opportunity to talk to Mr. Beamer, find out where we're at as far as our athletic programs and what plans we have in place. But I will definitely be doing that tomorrow, and I will make sure to get back with you. But I'm hopeful that at least some of not just our athletic programs, but our DCR programs, possibly we run a lot of summer stuff, summer baseball, summer softball, other types of summer programs. I'm hoping that maybe some of those things can get up and running. I think it'd be a great way to start returning to a little bit of normalcy.
Okay. Our next meeting dates, June 22nd and July 15th.
I make a motion to go into closed session to discuss collective bargaining.
Support.
It's been moved and supported to go into closed session to discuss collective bargaining. We'll have a roll call vote.
Karen Conover,
Yes.
John Hare,
Yes.
Martha Glassman's not here, Diane Rhines,
Yes.
Matthew Smith,
Yes.
Ranger Stefanko,
Yes.
Kathleen Sudia.
Yes. We are in closed session, and this concludes the regular meeting of the Board of Education.
We cut? Are we off?
No.
All righty. Thank you. Thanks, Randy. Thanks, Tom.